This episode is proudly sponsored by HASA, the trusted choice for liquid chlorine. It's better because it offers the highest purity, works instantly, and contains no added CYA. By the bottom feeder, professional-grade battery-powered swimming pool vacuum system, it sucks to clean pools, so cleaning pools sucks less. Get $100 off the bottom feeder with code DVB100. Skimmer, trusted by over 30,000 pool service professionals across North America. Skimmer software helps you save time, grow revenue, and boost your 5-star reviews. Whether you're just starting out or expanding your team, Skimmer's easy-to-use tools and expert support have you covered. Upgrade your business in 2025 with Skimmer. Try Skimmer for 30 days for free at getskimmer.com/poolguy.
The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show.
Hi, and welcome to the Pool Guy Podcast Show. In this episode, I'm going to spotlight the Advantage portable fire pump cart. And this is a 3-horsepower gas-powered cart that you can utilize in case of a brush fire around your house. And it will take the pool water, and it comes with a 100-foot hose, and it pumps 80 to 100 gallons per minute. So I'll go over this fire pump cart because there's been a lot of traction with the video I filmed actually 6 years ago, and the video is actually taking off right now again on YouTube. Join my coaching program and take your pool service to the next level. Connect with other pool pros in your area, gain valuable knowledge, and transform your business with personalized one-on-one advice from me. With over 36 years of experience, I'm here to help you succeed like never before. Learn more at poolguycoaching.com. The main limitation of this would be California Penal Code Section 4095. This law allows authorities to enforce mandatory evacuation orders. Staying in an evacuation zone without a lawful reason could result in fines or even arrest. I think this product is a valuable safety tool to some homeowners, and that's why I'm bringing it up. There are, of course, some considerations. This will, of course, not replace the firefighters in your area. It's a supplemental tool, and it's not to be used in substitution for professional firefighting or evacuation notices. You have to kind of know how to use this thing, so you would want to practice with it, turning it on, using the hose, and of course, trying it out to make sure you get the coverage that you're looking for. And there are limitations. It's gas powered, and so if you run out of gas, of course, you're not going to be able to utilize this thing. I don't think you're going to run out of water unless you have a really small pool. I would say most people have pools that are 10,000 gallons and higher, which will give you 2 or 3 hours of runtime, no problem with that amount of water. And of course, again, as I mentioned, if there is a mandatory evacuation order, you need to adhere to that. But I think it does provide a level of safety for your property in certain situations, and you would have to use your judgment to decide when to utilize this particular firefighting tool and when to, of course, evacuate. So that's a little disclaimer there, that if you are in a mandatory evacuation zone and you stay behind, you could face some serious consequences. But if you are not in the mandatory evacuation zone and you want to use this device, you of course want to use it logically, with caution, and with knowing that there are limitations to anything. I've seen people on the news recently putting out some fires in their neighborhood with their garden hoses, and I've seen them spraying down their roofs with that. And some people even saved their homes with garden hoses, but probably not advisable by the authorities. And it's something that has been done before. In fact, one of my customers in Glendora, California, there was a fire on January 16th, 2014. It was called the Colby Fire, and it was a really big fire, about 2,000 acres, right above or near a residential area. And he had one of these fire pumps. He stayed behind. It wasn't a mandatory evacuation, I don't think, at that time, because it was really late at night, and he was there fighting it. I was there later in the week to service the pool, actually, which is kind of funny. The pools were a mess over there, by the way, and I saw the fire burned all the way up to his property line. It burned his oak trees around his property. It burned the tractor. He had a really nice tractor in the front yard. He's on like an acre and a half of property up there, and it burned everything on his property up to the house. But he had this, and he had a pool, about a 20,000 gallon pool. When I got there, it was about two or 3 feet down in water, and they were refilling it that day. And he came out. He couldn't talk because his voice was so hoarse from all the smoke. Of course, he had protection on, but there was so much smoke around there. And he even told me that the fire was so close to his house that the phosphorus dropped down right on top of them. Him and I think it was a friend of his, were helping to put out the fire, and it just got them all covered in the phosphorus. That's how close the fire was to their house. But they stayed there with this gas-powered pump, shooting water everywhere, putting out the fires in the trees around the house, and he pretty much saved his property with this device. Now, again, it's one of those things where how big of a fire or how much you want to protect your property with this device, and the risk you're taking, of course, is your own risk. I wouldn't recommend staying when it is a mandatory evacuation, because I mentioned that it is illegal, or I guess you're pushing the legal limits of things by doing that. So what is this device for? Well, it's a good preventative thing if there's a fire in your area, because you can definitely spray down everything rapidly with this pump, your roof, the trees around your property, and you can protect your property from certain situations with this. And you can put out fires that are around your property like my customer did. He's proof that this device is actually effective in putting out a brush fire. And the winds, by the way, that were blowing about 40 miles an hour that night, 40 to 50 mile an hour gusts. So it was extremely windy. That's why that fire took off. I believe it was a couple of homeless individuals that were trying to warm themselves at a campfire when the wind picked up in Glendora, causing that fire. And it's one of those things that happens. And if you live on a hill or in an area where you're fire prone, even if you live down the hill, because the fires in LA burn inland a little bit, it's one of those things where this device would definitely come in extremely handy to have in an emergency where you're able to utilize this particular device. I'll put a link in the description here for the gas-powered fire pump video, which has seen a really huge spike in views over the last 3 or 4 days because of the recent fires in Los Angeles. It's pretty interesting how it spiked up there and getting a lot of comments on the video. So what this pump is a gas-powered Briggs & Stratton 550 series engine, 3 horsepower impeller on the pump, and basically it'll pump 80 to 100 gallons per minute. The reason why it's gas-powered is because typically the power will be turned off in a fire zone either by the electric company. Southern California Edison is the one in my area, or it'll burn through the areas, and of course transformers will explode and power will be off. So you couldn't utilize typically your swimming pool pump. A lot of people are saying just get a hose and connect it to your pool pump and you could have the same effect. You really can't, because you will have no power at that point, and without power your pool pump will not turn on. And this, of course, since it's gas powered, it's going to eliminate that factor of not having electricity. I mean, my customer said that he spent about 2 or 3 hours fighting the fire, and I can believe it with how low the pool water was, because they were already refilling when I got there and it was still down 2 or 3 feet. So he got it down pretty low in that 2 or 3 hour period. And basically, if you have a 15,000 gallon pool, you would have 3 or 4 hours of water. If you had a 20,000 gallon pool, that would be a 4 or 5 time span with the water in your pool. And I would imagine that that's plenty of time to put out something that's in the proximity of your house, as long as it's not 80 or 90 mile an hour winds that's blowing. I wouldn't even think this would have a fighting chance in certain situations. But in a lot of situations, it's going to come in handy, because those gigantic tornado-driven fires are not quite as common, especially if you're down the hill and you're not directly in the line of fire and you want to protect your property in an area where you have some evacuation notices, but they're not a mandatory type thing. I really think the fire department should have these tools on their stations, because you have a water source in people's backyards, 20,000 gallons. if you look at some of the photos of Los Angeles, you'll see that a lot of these homes had pools, and there's a 20,000 gallon water source there. With a gas powered pump like this, you could definitely put out fires around that area if it was safe to do so, and you can utilize the water source in those areas. It's one of those things where it's a device that you probably hopefully will never want to use, but it's a device that you have available. Just like if you buy a new home in California, it comes with a sprinkler system built in to the new homes, and in some areas that's a requirement. And the sprinkler system, once it's used, will ruin everything in the house basically. So you don't want that to happen. But then again, that sprinkler system will put out the fire in the house as long as there's power to that sprinkler system, that is. And most of those sprinkler systems have their own separate water line as well. So you wouldn't be able to turn off the water on the sprinkler system. And that's something that you never want to use, of course. But if there is a fire and it does come on and puts it out, then it saves the interior of your house for sure. And the same thing with this product. You may want to fire it up ever so often to make sure it's working, but you never really want to use this thing because that means that there's a fire burning close enough to your house to put your property in danger. And it's something that, of course, comes in handy. So in the video, I show you that it's on a cart. So this cart has these really durable wheels on there. Make sure you put air in there to make sure that you can pull it around. And it has an intake, a really large intake in the front. So you would drop this in the pool, and then basically this pulls the water from the pool. There's also a screen in front, so if the pool has debris in there, it's not going to clog it up. And then you would use your 100-foot fire hose with a nozzle very similar to the fire department has, and you can just spray. In the video, you see me shooting the water 30 feet up at the pine trees back there. You can also open up the spray and make it like a large area to protect yourself in front of you. So there's all different options with the spray. And again, it's gas powered, so you won't have a problem. So where do you order from? You order from advantagemanufacturing.com. Advantage Manufacturing, right now, at this very moment, they're actually out of stock because they sold the last ones. But they're going to always have new stock in. And it takes about 1 to 2 weeks for them to build one of these and ship it to you. So of course you would want to have it in advance of the fire season. You wouldn't be able to get it immediately like the next day. You can call over there at 800-636-8866, 800-636-8866. And you can, of course, order one of these. The current price, I'm going to tell you the price now, but it may vary. But it's about $2,099, and then there's some shipping costs for that. But they may be able to do something to give you a break on the price, and depending on how much they get the motors for. It's a small business, so the price is set based on the price of the components they get, the motor and the impeller and the pump, and basically the cart itself. So there are some built-in costs that are fixed, and they vary, and they may go up, they may go down. I don't know, things never go down, I guess. And it's something that you can order and definitely have. The product code is SuperVacFire. So SuperVacFire is the product code. And they have a video for the manufacturer, I believe, or from someone. It's not my video on their site. I'm not sure why that is, but the video is someone using it just like the video that I have. So you can kind of get an idea. And actually, if you're on YouTube, you'll see my video should pop up there in the thread with this video here. So it's something that I think can come in handy in certain situations. So I caution the use of this in certain situations. I would say it's better to get out, but it is your house and it is your property. And depending on your level of risk tolerance, you would want to do what you think is necessary. This is not my product. I don't sell the product. And it's one of those things where I think the product does have a utility aspect to it in certain situations, and it's something that you would have to use your judgment for. I really think every homeowner in the foothill should have this with their pool and have it handy, especially when there's a high wind event and there's a possibility of fire, because just like my customer, he saved his house and it probably would have definitely burned and been destroyed if it wasn't for him being there with the fire pump. I believe it was his father-in-law that was with him that day, helping him put out the fire, if I remember correctly. So it was two of them working around the perimeter of the house with the fire pump, the gas-powered fire pump, pulling the water from their swimming pool. So if you're wondering if there was a product that you can utilize your pool water to put out a fire, there actually is a product that you can utilize to use the pool water to put out a fire. One of the comments was that, all these water sources are not being utilized. I think I've seen helicopters pull water from backyard pools before fighting a fire. Not super common because it has to be a really clear path to it. But this would be a great option for any firefighting team or crew that's looking for a water source. You have this, you pull it up to the customer's house, you get it out, you prime it up, you start the engine, and then you have a 3 horsepower pump basically shooting water out everywhere to put out any fires around that particular property. Just a note that the one that I filmed had a regular pump wet end, but it looks like the newer versions don't have a pump wet end. You just have the intake, much like a Polaris booster pump. If you're familiar with pressure side cleaners, there's a booster pump and with the impeller, and there's no wet end. There's no actual wet end in the pump, no pump pot area with a basket. So that's the difference, I think, in a new design, is that it goes directly into the motor, the pump itself, I should say, without a wet end, and then the water will be accelerated to 80 to 100 gallons per minute, which is a lot of water and is a very fast flowing amount of water for sure, much more than a garden hose. And for a quick comparison, your average garden hose, especially here in California where there's pressure regulators, will probably put out about 9 or 10 gallons per minute. So this thing is putting out 80 to 100 gallons per minute. So that's a look at the Advantage Manufacturing portable fire pump. And again, I'll have the link to the video below so you can actually watch the video and see it in action. And I was actually utilizing this myself, and it does work really well. And it's something that you may want to consider depending on where your property lies in a fire zone or on a hill. It's definitely something to look into. If you're looking for other podcasts I've recorded, you can find those on my website, swimmingpoollearning.com. And on the banner, there's a podcast icon with a drop-down menu with other podcasts I've recorded. And if you're interested in the coaching program that I offer, you can learn more at poolguycoaching.com. Thanks for listening to this podcast. Have a great rest of your week, and God bless. This episode is brought to you by HASA, providing products that deliver clean, healthy water for every aspect of everyday life. The bottom feeder battery-powered vacuum system, portable, powerful, and only weighs 12 pounds. And Skimmer. Get Skimmer, America's #1 pool service software. Podcast listeners can try Skimmer for free at getskimmer.com/poolguy.